Howdy everyone, my name is Moonman, and today we're going to be discussing the weapon talent system in Ashes of Creation. When I was putting this video together, I realized there was a ton of information around the general weapon system, procs, and status effects that were important for fully understanding the weapon talent system, and as such, we'll be covering pretty much everything having to do with the overall weapon system. We've seen a lot more information come out around weapon talents in the past two Ashes of Creation updates, but it's important to note that the team has been very upfront about how these specific talents are still being worked on and that they plan on coming through to implement final balancing before the Alpha 2 comes out later this year. If you didn't know, the weapon talents are separate from class ability talents and that your weapon choice will have no effect on available abilities. That said, weapon talents will have a huge impact on your ability synergies and group synergies, and we'll get into that more later. Before we take a deep dive into the weapon talent system itself, I want to go over some background information around the general combat and weapon systems that is important to understand, ultimately to truly grasp how the weapon talents come into play in Ashes of Creation. First off, there are a lot of different weapons in Ashes. All of these weapons will have different talent trees that synergize with your class abilities, as well as other class abilities in some cases. Weapons are not locked out by class, and any class can use any weapon. It goes without saying that some weapons will synergize better with certain classes. I'd imagine a mage using a massive two-hand hammer may not be the best synergy, but who really knows until we give it a try in Alpha 2. Weapons and auto attacks have a combo system. So your weapon will have a number of attacks in its combo by default. Different weapon types of a different sequence of combat animations, and combos are triggered by performing your basic weapon attacks. The number of steps and passive effects that trigger during weapon combos can be customized through your weapon talents. In other words, your weapon combo is X number of attacks by default, but can be increased to a longer attack combo, and there are different effects that your weapon combos can trigger. For instance, hitting your full combo could trigger a momentary increase to your movement speed or your attack speed. This is also where synergies become a big part of the weapon talent system. In the fighter preview, we learned more about these synergies and how they can benefit you individually as well as come into play with other classes. We have Second Strike as a weapon talent for the Greatsword, and basically what this does is after a weapon combo finisher, your next ability deals additional damage. Oh, and a weapon combo finisher, by the way, basically just means finishing your full weapon combo and hitting your final attack in the combo. So for the Greatsword, that could be your third or fourth attack. There is, quote, perfect timing, where after a weapon combo finisher, the next ability you cast will have a reduced cooldown, and finally Burning Blade, which will apply to a burning debuff, or really a burning status effect to your target. So let's just take a second to dissect that in the scope of synergies. Second Strike and Perfect Timing provide individual synergy that could create a large damage increase or increased utility. However, Burning Blade is really the cool one here because it creates a synergy with a class other than yourself. I would assume that Burning is a debuff that causes some sort of damage over time, but based on what the Ashes team said, this will synergize with the Mage archetype, and they are still working through what that synergy will look like, but I imagine a Mage using a fire spell after a Greatsword user procs the Burning debuff, and that could increase the damage output of that fire spell. Seems like there will be many more of these types of synergies that will be implemented within various weapon talents, and there are already a lot of these types of synergies built into various abilities and spells. I find this to be a really cool aspect of Ashes of Creation. I think about PvP and PvE and how your group composition, weapon choices, spell choices can largely alter how various encounters play out, your damage output, damage mitigation, and so on. It just really builds this kind of risk-reward ratio of, hey, should we run this? Should we run that? If we do this, that might, affect how much we can heal or how much our damage output is, but it really helps us in this specific phase of this boss, kind of so on and so forth. Now, let's really dig deep into the weapon talent system. We've only seen 3 weapons be covered, those being the bow, greatsword, and wand. I think the best weapon to focus on is the wand, because that weapon talent tree seems to be the most fleshed out, at least as far as the information we have. One thing that isn't quite clear with the weapon talent tree is how we progress through this tree. I'd love to see the team release more information on this, because in every update, their characters are a high enough level to have a multitude of talent points spent, but it's tough to understand where you start in the talent tree and how you can progress through it. As an example, can I simply pick any talent, or do higher tier talents unlock as we progress? Seems like we are forced to choose one of 2 talents initially, and that starts to unlock more of the talent tree. When I look at the wand tree, I wonder if I can go from wand hit +5 to weapon training power wand, right into beam amplifier, and so on, and effectively skip the whole hit +5 tree, or if I need to gather a certain number of talent points before I can move on from wand +5 to weapon training power wand, etc. As far as the weapon talents themselves, they seem pretty self-explanatory. Some talents provide passive increases to stats, such as increased critical strike chance. Some talents affect your weapon combos by increasing the length or number of your basic attack combo. Some of them provide a class buff. Essence Harvest, as an example, has a chance to increase your magical power by a percentage for every time that you trigger your wand proc. Some talents have an effect on your abilities, and some talents can add a specific effect to your weapon. Burning projectiles, for instance, gives your wand and beam attacks a 10% chance to burn the target. So let's go ahead and go through the whole wand talent tree, and we can digest all the different things the current weapon talents will affect specific to the wand. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the wand weapon talent tree. As I was talking about a little bit earlier with the progression through the talents, it does seem like we have 2 main starting places on the bottom left and then right at the bottom in the middle. I know you can't see the the selection on the bottom left, but we have our projectiles for the wand with burning, chilling, and electrifying projectiles. We'll go ahead and pick burning projectiles, and basically every wand projectile and beam has a 10% chance to burn the target. And then all of the talents kind of in this middle section connected to your projectiles are going to then buff your projectiles. So we have our elemental attunement, which increases the trigger chance of elemental status effect wand procs by 5%. As you make your way up, it's going to increase that by another 5% and then another 5%. Then we have elemental lure. Wand damage is increased by 3% per application of burning, chilled, or volatile on the target up to 9%. And I'm not sure how this will necessarily play out, if this will both increase the damage percentage as well as the max percentage, or maybe when you get to Elemental Lure 3, you will just instantly apply the max 9%. Well, I guess we'll have to find out. Then we have wand hit 5 extra damage, going to increase the 5th hit of your wand by 15%. More base damage, again, just 15% on each talent as you make your way through. For some background, this goes in line with the weapon combo system. So when you hit that 5th hit of your wand, that 5th hit is going to deal X% more damage. One thing that I would really like to see out of this is that the progression as you make your way up feels a little bit bland. I mean, more proc chance by 5%, 5%, 5%. More damage by 15%, 15%, 15%. It just feels a little bit bland. I wish that as you made your way through, the buffs or increases were slightly different. Maybe, you know, kind of ramping up in how much they are buffing the damage, or maybe that these lead to some sort of keystone kind of right at the top that gives you some sort of special effect connected to the rest of the tree. Or maybe once you max out all 3, that you then unlock a keystone ability kind of right up here. Something to incentivize, you know, filling out this tree other than just static damage, or just kind of I guess this, you know, I do like Elemental Lure. The buff seems really cool to me specifically. Moving on though, we have our wand hit 5+. So you have a 25% chance on the 5th hit to instead fire a beam at the target that triggers proc effects and triggers weapon finisher effects. And this effectively unlocks another tree right here in the middle. But something else is that it unlocks some of these abilities on the side, which we'll dive into here in a second. But specific to these, hit 5+ proc chance 1, increase the base trigger chance of hit 5+ to 50%. To 75%, and then to 100%. So effectively every time you hit your 5th wand attack, 5th attack in your combo, you will have a 100% chance of proccing the beam to proc your wand to fire a beam. And over here we have wand hit 5+ extra damage. Really the same thing, more damage by 15%. And then we have wand damage focus, which increases the damage of all wand projectiles and beams by 5%. So kind of a buff applying to more areas of the wand, not just your 5+ wand hit damage, but all of your wand attack damage as a whole. Again, I would like to see a little bit more variability here. It feels a little bit bland that, you know, hey, I do think getting to 100% proc chance is definitely a big deal, especially for the beams, which you'll see a little bit later with this beam amplifier up here kind of on that top right section. But just seeing, you know, damage increases on a static percentage just feels a little bit boring. Again, I wish there was some sort of keystone that this was leading to. Something that gave me a little bit more, I guess, feeling of weight in my decision making on the talents that I choose. Right now, it just kind of feels like I could pretty much go anything in these trees, and it'll probably work out. But kind of making our way through the progression, get wand hit 5+, then we can get our weapon training power wand, which will increase our critical damage by 2%. This feels a little bit low to me. 2% crit damage doesn't seem like a whole lot. On the other side, we have Essence Harvest. Every time you trigger a wand proc, you have a 50% chance to increase magical power by 3% by 10 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. I really like this. I think this is a really cool talent, a part of the wand system, that you can effectively ramp up your magic power by focusing on shooting your basic attacks and triggering your wand procs. And, you know, once you hit a certain number, you know, maybe you can unleash a very powerful spell. A lot of ways that you can synergize this with your rotation, focusing on wands versus abilities, or, you know, trying to ramp up that next ability to hit as hard as possible, so on and so forth. As we move our way up, we have our beam amplifier. So wand hit 6+ now deals 50% more damage if the previous wand combo hit was also a beam attack. I do want to take a step back for just a second and look at the progression here. So you might start with projectiles, get your wand hit 5+, that's going to open up weapon training power wand. But I think the big thing here, so projectiles, I believe, will open up Essence Harvest, which will then open up Echo or Perfect Timing to open up this tree on the top. And then you have wand hit 6, which this seems like you might be able to just kind of get at any time. I'm not 100% sure since it's right in the middle. But once you get wand hit 6 into wand hit 6+ into another layer of weapon training power wand, I think that's when you would unlock beam amplifier, because the big thing with beam amplifier is that you need to have wand hit 6+ for it to even work, it seems like. Maybe not though, considering that wand hit 5 enables a proc to fire a beam. I don't know. Again, this is why I'd like to see the team release a little bit more information on how we progress through these talents and kind of do a deep dive on this system specifically, because I think it's important just to understand, you know, how can we make our way through, you know, how long do I have to use a weapon, how many talent points do I have to get, and how many talent points do I actually get, right? You know, am I going to be able to fill out this entire tree and get every single thing in here just by using the weapon over and over and over again? Or am I going to be kind of picking and choosing what I want and really have a weight with my decision and what sort of gameplay style I have to choose based off of the limited number of talent points I get? They did say, however, that your weapon progression will be about 2 to 3 times faster than your ability progression as far as ability talents are concerned for your archetype. Nonetheless, would like to hear a little bit more in here, but let's just kind of go through this. Wand hit 6, this just adds another hit or another attack to your combo. Rather than being a 5-hit combo, now it is a 6-hit combo. And then we have wand hit 6+. You have a 25% chance on the 6th hit to instead fire a beam at the target that triggers proc effects. I guess maybe this is answering my own question, but maybe you can choose to go wand hit 6 or wand hit 5. Still not totally sure, but we have roughly the same thing as the below tree with increased proc chance, increased damage on the 6th hit or the final hit, And this is another layer of increased damage to the 6th hit, which seems a little bit odd that these both are identical. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and take a look here. So we have Echo or Perfect Timing. Let's take a look at Echo. Adds a 25% chance to gain the Echo proc upon completion of wand combo finishers and extended finishers. This rate increases to 100% upon beam finishers. Echo, when you strike a target with direct damage, it gets struck again for magical damage. So I guess basically you have a chance to proc this, I guess ultimately double attack or an extra attack, you know, kind of at the end of your combo and your finisher. And we have these extra stacks. Second Strike and Perfect Timing now stack up to 2 times. And this seems a little odd since I didn't see Second Strike in here, I don't believe, just saw Perfect Timing. Maybe that's an error, but we'll just say, you know, for Perfect Timing that it'll stack up more times, which we'll take a look at what Perfect Timing is in a sec. Echo and Perfect Timing proc effects, it extends the duration by 2.5 seconds. Just kind of the same thing all the way through, and then increases the damage of all wand projectiles by 8%. Looks like this is the same all the way through, so every wand attack is that much more powerful. I do actually have to refresh to change these if I remember correctly. For Perfect Timing, we have adds a 25% chance to gain the Perfect Timing proc upon completion of a weapon combo finisher and extended finishers. This rate increases to 100% upon beam finishers. Perfect Timing reduces the cooldown of the next ability you cast by 5 seconds. That's pretty cool. It's kind of similar to Second Strike on the Greatsword, that it reduces the cooldown of your next ability used, whereas Echo is adding damage to your combo with your wand itself. Overall, you know, I think there's a lot of good things here. I think it's definitely making a lot of good progress, but just to repeat, I would love to see more information on the progression through this. You know, what are the max talent points we're going to have? You know, what sort of limitations am I going to have with this system? And additionally, I'd like to see more variability with what we're doing with these modifiers. When it comes to damage, this elemental lure, elemental attunement, you know, proc chances, and so on. I would just like to see more options and ways to change how my weapon works, and, you know, ultimately how I can choose, you know, how I'm playing my class with that weapon specifically. I think it's really big that talents specifically are going to be the way that I differentiate my character from everyone else, that I can implement my own play style. So it's one thing that I'm very touchy on, because personally I like to try new things, and I want to be able to really kind of push the limits of my character and see, you know, what works in specific encounters and what doesn't. And I think the talents can really drive a lot of variability in that gameplay, and how an individual plays their class or uses a specific weapon. I think another thing is potentially having some sort of keystone that these all lead up to, that hey, you know, once I max all these out, I might get another ability that only comes once I've, you know, sacrificed all the talent points into all these different things, which maybe that limits me from getting some of the other things in the tree, and kind of so on. Looks like these last two things, which may be some more keystone talents, are not quite ready yet. But I think that's just a good overview of everything that we have in the wand weapon talent tree right now, and some of my thoughts on, you know, how we might be able to improve this overall, and kind of spice this up a little bit to make sure that it's as good as it can be. Overall, I think the weapon talent system is in a good place, but the Ashes of Creation team could definitely make some tweaks to make the system even better and more dynamic. Can't tell you how excited I am for Alpha 2, and I can't wait to play around with these systems and all the different weapon types and archetypes. But thank you so much for watching. I'm just getting this channel started, and I'm going to be heavily focused on Ashes of Creation content. I appreciate all of you that have tuned in. Be making another video on Ashes of Creation next week, so subscribe so you don't miss out. Even though I'm going to be mostly focused on Ashes of Creation with this channel, while we're waiting for Alpha 2, I plan on releasing some other videos around some other video games, specifically focused on funny storytelling. I have a video like this from Hardcore World of Warcraft that is on my channel from quite a bit ago, so if you want to see what that content is like, you can check it out. I'll see you next week with more Ashes content.
Moonman out.